Hey guys, Jay Anthony, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a really cool review on the Rolex GMT Master II. If you guys watch my unboxing and you've watched my whole channel, this is the first Rolex I've had in 2 years now. So I've kind of spent the last couple weeks getting used to this watch, kind of getting a feel for Rolexes again. And now that I feel like I know the watch more intimately, I feel like I can finally give you guys a good review. So hopefully this will be helpful for you. Also, you may notice throughout this video that the photography is a little bit higher standard than I usually have. So we're shooting on a much higher camera today. I also have a much better mic, and I want to thank Dan from Shawnee Union channel for coming out and helping me film all this. I can't promise it's going to be the same quality going forward, but he's came out, was really kind of him to show me how to shoot better videos. So I'm going to put a link to his channel in the description below. Go check him out. He does all sorts of cool videos on vintage cameras. And so, any of you guys that watch me that appreciate fine engineering and craftsmanship, go check his stuff out. It's really, really cool, and I hope you appreciate it. So anyway, again, this is going to be on the Rolex 16710 GMT Master. We'll go through a bunch of the features of this watch and just kind of give my overall thoughts on it. So thank you guys so much, and let's go ahead and jump to the review. This is the L Serial 1989 16710 Rolex GMT Master. And of course, this one has the lovely Coke bezel, which is noticeable by the black and red on the bezel itself. So this is one of those really cool iconic watches of the Rolex range. A little bit of history on this guy and part of the reason why I bought it. If you're an aircraft aficionado and especially like the golden age of jetliners, you might be aware of the fact that this watch was designed in collaboration with Pan Am Airways. And the reason that this was something that was a good fit for Pan Am Airways is obviously airplanes are traveling through multiple time zones. And it's very helpful for a pilot to have a tool where they can transition time zones quite quickly. And this is one of those watches that affords you the ability to track multiple time zones at once. Obviously there is a GMT hand, which can track military time. As you can see right now, it's tracking a little bit after 1400 hours. You also have your standard hour hand here, which is tracking normal time a little after 2 o'clock. So a very cool watch, and we'll start going through some of the features and specs here. One of the things you may notice immediately is this, again, 24-hour bezel. Those of you that are familiar with other Rolex Sportline models, you might assume this is a unidirectional bezel. However, it's actually bidirectional, and that would make sense for a watch like this. So not only can you turn it left one way or counterclockwise, you can also turn it clockwise. And as with traditional Rolexes as well, it has a very good firm locking feature to it. It locks in solidly to every indent, and it definitely feels high quality. And if you wanted to jump ahead by multiple time zones, you actually would just line up the dot here with the hour markers at 12. So if I wanted to go ahead 2 hours, I'd rotate it until 2 lines up with 12 o'clock, and I've now adjusted it 2 hours ahead. And if I wanted to go back 2 hours or 2 time zones, I'd rotate the other direction until 2200 lines up with 12 o'clock, as you can see there. Some other just general features of the watch. So this being a Rolex Sportline model is the same size as a Rolex Submariner. It's 40 millimeters in size. This is a traditional older style Rolex case. You can see here we have the holes for the lugs. So it actually makes it very easy to take the bracelet on and off this guy. Traditional Rolex models, of course, like this one, have polishing, high polish on the sides, as well as on the side of the bracelets, and brushed in the center on these links. This bracelet has never been polished, so as you can see, there's quite a bit of scuff and deterioration to it, but that gives it some charm. And unfortunately, a lot of these older watches have been polished, and when you polish, you're actually removing material, which actually can be a detriment to the watch itself. Traditional older style Rolex fold-over clasp, as you can see there. Again, this bracelet's definitely had some battle scars to it, but it of course adds to its kind of class here. So if you're familiar with older Rolexes, this should be no surprise to you. This bracelet folds over, snaps into place. As with all Rolex bracelets, you can see here where my thumb is, you have screw-out links. And again, you're seeing some, age marks on this guy from, again, all the years of wear and tear this watch has experienced in his lifetime. Now, you might notice something interesting on the crown if you're familiar with other Rolex Sportline models. And we'll see if we can show it here. Below the crown itself, you're not going to see the triple lock crown. You're not going to see the 3 dots. You're actually just going to see a solid bar. And that's because this is the standard oyster crown. So what does that mean? That means, well, this watch is watertight, and in an oyster case, it is not to the same degree of watertightness that you would get with a Submariner. So actually, when you unscrew the crown, there isn't going to be a seal there like you would see on a Submariner. Now, this may have had one at one time. I honestly don't know about these, to be honest with you, but I'm pretty sure these never came with a seal. But feel free to let me know in the comments. By the way, too, from this perspective, you can of course see the beautiful magnification that you get with a Rolex. A lot of people are surprised to see how small the date actually is. And if I rotate it a little bit, hopefully you can see that the date aperture there is actually substantially smaller than the magnification would lead you to believe. And as we get into the functions of the crown, let's talk about the movement itself too. This is the Rolex 3185 movement. 50-hour power reserve, 31 joule movement, 28,800 beats per hour, as you would find common on Rolexes of this vintage and newer. Those are still pretty decent current specs for Rolex line models. What's not so typical with this movement, and I'll show you in a sec, is the way that it actually gets set. So for those of you that are familiar with Rolexes and actually most watches in general, first position, as on this guy, is winding, which is very traditional. However, the rest of the features on this watch are actually not so traditional. So a lot of you guys on second position, which I'll pull it out one, you would expect that you would be able to change the date. But actually second position on this guy, as you can see, actually adjusts the hour hand, which actually allows, as you can see, the ability to change the date, but it also has the ability to quickly change time zones. So what's really nice about this is the watch, I'm not changing the minute hand and I'm not changing the second hand, but I'm still able to actually alter my time zone very quickly without having to reset the watch. So if I'm in Detroit right now and I want to go to Texas, I can bump it back one time zone that quickly. Or if I'm in Texas and I want to go to New York, I can jump it ahead one time zone very quickly. And if I'm in New York and let's say I want to go to Los Angeles, which is 3 time zones behind, I can go 1, 2, 3, and now I'm on LA time. And again, I don't have to alter any of the other parameters of the watch. I still have the date correctly, I still have my minute hand correctly, and I still have my second hand correctly. So that's extremely convenient. So if you wanted to do a quick set on the date, you can actually just roll it through the 24 hours. And as you can see, I'm really able to really still quickly, almost quick set date the watch. So it's not quite a quick set date, but it is still extremely convenient and still very easy. For those of you guys that are familiar with watches from the days before quick set dates, you'll realize that this is pretty simple in comparison to the way watches used to be. So that's really quickly how you would set the date. And that's also, again, a very simple feature for you to jump ahead time zones and hours. And you'll notice too, while I'm doing this, the military time isn't changing. So you can keep your home time zone set to wherever you want it to be, and then you can just alter the standard time zone here with the hour hand. So it's very convenient to keep your home time on track and also alter the second hour hand to keep track of the time zone you're traveling to. So that's what second position does. And then third position, as you can see now, is hacking. So the second hand on the watch is actually stopped, and now you can more accurately set the time. And this way, when you rotate, you'll notice that I'm adjusting my GMT hand as well. So one of the obvious questions may be is, well, how do you actually set the watch? And I'll do a separate video on that since it's probably a little too much of a tangent to get involved on this. But in short, what you would do is you'd wait for the second hand here to come line up at 12 o'clock. And that way you can sync something with, say, a GMT world clock online, so you can get pretty accurate timekeeping. So we'll go ahead and pull it out. And then what you would do is you would track the GMT hand, which again, this is this red guy, and your minute hand, and you'd set that first. So let's say right now, I want to set it to 1000 exactly. I'd go ahead and start it now. And then I would go to second position, and I would alter my second position to the other time that I wanted to track. But again, I'll create a tutorial on this, so don't worry about that for the moment. So we'll go ahead and put the crown back in. It is a screw down crown, as is typical with all oyster cases. And for those of you who are curious as well, so this watch is vintage. Again, it's an L serial, it's from 1989. So you're actually seeing the color of the markers, for those of you that have seen this watch before or have seen a newer one, are actually almost like an almond color. And the reason is that they've aged. This is a tritium dial. They do not use this material anymore for luminescence. There's a multitude of reasons why. You're welcome to look online to look at those. But part of that means that over time they've faded, and they have this really kind of cool color to it. And actually the dial too, which you won't be able to see from this perspective, has some aging on it as well. There's what they call spotting, and I apologize, I'm not gonna be able to zoom in quite as close to show you that. But the lacquer on the dial is starting to spot a little bit. And if this thing goes continually to go down that route, you'll get what they call a stardust effect, or it'll also turn into what they call a Rolex stardust style. You can Google that if you're curious, but that's something that happens to some vintage Rolexes as well. This watch being all original, that's just something that can happen to watches that is vintage. Those of you that have been following me for a while, you may remember I had that Rolex Submariner. That guy actually started to do the exact same thing that you're seeing on this watch as well. I had some spots growing on the dial. So beyond that, again, that's kind of the watch in general. 40 millimeters, again, very similar to a sub. One thing that's not so similar that I appreciate better is the case itself is not as thick. So the sub actually would probably come out a little bit more than this. So this actually wears pretty slim on the wrist. So there it is on the wrist. Quite a pretty looking watch, and as you can see from the side, hopefully it wears pretty slim as well. So that's the Rolex GMT Master in general. This model is discontinued. The newer ones actually use ceramic bezels. This one is made out of aluminum, or for my British friends, aluminium. And to my understanding, they no longer make the Coke bezel as well. You can still get a Pepsi, which the top part would be blue, but you have to get a solid white gold one, which is a $30,000 almost proposition. So they have made it a little bit more inconvenient if you want to get a multicolored bezel. But in short, that's the watch. These things are starting to appreciate in value. They were kind of an underdog for a while, and now, as with most Rolex sports watches, once they become discontinued, the prices have started to climb. So these things are definitely a potentially good investment for the future. I won't promise returns if you buy one, but they do seem to be doing pretty well in the market, and they're an awesome watch. And again, especially for those of you that appreciate aviation history and have visions of a man controlling the throttles on like a Boeing 707 in the 60s, this is very much a cool piece to own if you appreciate thoughts like that. So as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in and for watching. If you do me a favor, if you haven't already, please subscribe. And let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you feel that what I've done here would be valuable to friends and family or people you know, please help me spread the word about my channel. All right, guys, thanks so much and have a great day.